And we are going to talk about the 4 Ds of being a business owner. So I'm going to let Emily start. I'm going to let her introduce herself. I'll introduce myself too, because some of you may not know her, some of you may not know me. So let's go.
Hi guys, it's nice to be here with you all tonight. I know there's several of you that I don't know, and that's exciting. It means we're growing. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Emily Goodnet, and I am a Superstar Director out of Ontario, Canada. I have been with Sensi for just over 10 years now. I joined August 16th of 2011, so I just celebrated 10 years. I am Morgan's upline director. I mean, she's not technically my front line, but I treat her as such. And we've linked arms several times in the past. We run tons of things by each other, and we're just really, really good friends in this business. And it's nice that we can bounce ideas and share resources and things. She's an incredible leader. And when she asked me to collaborate on this call with her, I jumped at the opportunity because it's been a long time since we have. So I'm happy to be here. Just to rewind a little bit, I didn't always live in Canada. My business started in the US. My husband was active duty Army. We started in Fort Drum, then moved to Colorado Springs, Colorado. That's actually where I met Morgan because she joined under someone else in Colorado. And then we moved to Texas, where my husband's from. And then we decided we didn't want to stay there, and we decided to make the big move across North America to come back to Canada. So that's where I've been since 2018. But I'm happy to be here with you all, and I look forward to getting to know you all better.
I cannot believe you've been there since 2018.
The last quarter, right? It was August. It was like the very tail end. It was right after SFR at Disney. Was it Disney? Was 2018 Disney? I think it was. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. So it was like we left. We literally moved back to Canada like 5 days after SFR. Like it was a very wild time. So August of 2018. So we're just now over 3 years, and most of it we spent in COVID.
Yeah, unfortunately. So I'm Morgan McGee. I'm from Alabama, total opposite end of the spectrum. Like she said, I met her in Colorado Springs. That's where I started my business. My husband was stationed there. And I was a dental hygienist when I started my business, and I was doing like all the side things. I was doing Etsy shops, and I was doing dog sitting, and I was making cakes, like trying to figure out my life. I knew I wanted extra money on the side, but I was just doing whatever interested me that I could try to get some extra money. Made good money as a dental hygienist. I made $35 an hour, which is great money to most people, but it wasn't enough because I guess we're just extra. I don't know, but we were struggling. I mean, my husband didn't make the best money, and I don't know, we just wanted more. And I guess I didn't really realize it until I found Sensi, and I joined Sensi for the discount because I couldn't afford to buy it. Like I couldn't even buy a $30 tub of washer whiffs. That was not something I could just do. But I loved it. So that's why I joined. And then actually Emily is who inspired me to like really work this business and turn it into a business, because I didn't know the possibilities until I heard her story. And I was like, what? She has 2 kids. She is doing this full time and supporting her family. Like I saw opportunity in that. And so I ran with it. And here we are 7 years later, which is crazy to say 7 years. It blows my mind, but I joined in September of 2014. And I've moved my business all over the place. So that's something me and Emily have in common. I've moved 6 times though. So we've lived in teeny tiny towns that don't even have a red light. We've lived in bigger cities like Colorado Springs, Huntsville area where we're at now. We're about to move again in January, so that's fun. We're probably not going to go to leadership because I just don't know that we can do all that in 1 month. Like I can't even, my mind just stresses out thinking vacation and moving and all this stuff all in 1 month. But yeah, that's a little about me. I have a 4-year-old, and this is our sole income now. My husband actually quit his job, and he is going back to school for engineering. And he's just really, we plan for him not to even use that degree once he graduates. He doesn't people very well. So we don't really want him to have to work for somebody else, because he's been a business owner. He's owned 2 businesses. So but it was just way too much on him. And now we finally have some freedom and can spend so much time together. And he just does online classes, and since he supports us, so it's been the biggest blessing that's ever came into our lives. So that is my little story. So we're going to start with the 4 D's of being a business owner. The first one is going to be do. It's going to be do, defer, delegate, and delete. So Emily's going to start, and I'm excited to hear what she has to share.
Yeah, so we're gonna both share a little bit of each of the topics, kind of give our own perspective, how it works in our business. As Morgan mentioned right before in her sort of her intro about the call tonight, we do share some similarities in the way that we work, but we're also pretty different. I mean, I have 2 kids. I live here in Canada. The demographics are different. Nobody's life is the same. So to try to give you sort of a cookie cutter idea of what success looks like for each person, I couldn't possibly do everything that Morgan does, just as much as Morgan probably would look at something and be like, I couldn't do that. So there's not a wrong way, but you can take sort of some of that framework and then make it your own as best you can. So to talk about the first one, I hold up the number 2. First one, we're going to talk about do. So what does that mean? So do it. This is the stuff that absolutely cannot wait, must happen right now. So when you think about your business, it really boils down to 3 things, which is sales, sponsoring, and leadership. Those are what we call, you guys are all familiar with this, as leaders, income producing activities, or IPAs. So these are the things that you should not put off ever. If every day you start your day, and let's say you work full time and you only have 15 minutes, that 15 minutes should not be spent on anything else but sales, sponsoring, or leadership. So, and in terms of leadership, it might be checking in with your directors, asking them, depending on how closely linked you are to your directors, what goals do they have, maybe what calls you're working on with them, with their teams, whatever the case is. It looks different to everybody, but those are the 3 main things. And we're going to, of course, get into some of the other 3 points in a little bit. But one way to manage this better is to write it down. And I know that Morgan's a big advocate of, maybe spending Sunday writing a list, making like a schedule for the day or for the week, however that looks. She loves the planner. I recently listened to a podcast, and I want to give credit where credit is due. We kind of built this call around the Boss Lee, the People's Mentor podcast. It's by Boss Lee. She talked about the 4 Ds of sustainable leadership. And so anyways, she didn't call it that on our call, but that's kind of how Morgan and I, built the call tonight. So a couple of things that she shared that stood out to me that I made notes on that I wanted to share tonight. One of those things was having a skeleton structure. So obviously, the muscles and the fat and everything else, those are just kind of extra, but your skeleton structure is basically your non-negotiables. What are the things that you have going on in your life that there is no way around? So for me, that's my children's schooling. I have a son and a daughter. One's in grade 4, one's in grade 5. They go to school at 9:15. I have to have them dropped off. I have to be at the school to pick them up by 3. School is let out at 3:35. So I'm spending 30 minutes at least waiting for them to get out. So those are non-negotiables. Those have to be done every day. So I build in what I can around the confines of what I have. One thing that's non-negotiable for me now is exercise, whether that's getting out for a walk, whether that's a circuit. It usually isn't more than 30 to 60 minutes, but depending on what else I have going on in the day, like Wednesday for me today is a hard day because I do service work. I have a massage every week at 1, which is around someone else's schedule, right? She's booked me in every week for 1. So that's not something that I can change because it's not, I could probably go and tell her, hey, I need to change it or I need to cancel, but because it's worked into her schedule, 1 o'clock. So I work my things around her. And so because of that, if I don't get my workout done first thing in the morning, then that means I'm likely not going to get it done throughout the rest of the day because I have too many things going on. Where the skeleton structure comes in is just, what things you have in your life that you can't do. Like, for example, I know Holly she homeschools her 3 kids. So homeschooling is going to take up a significant portion of her morning, at least. I don't know. I don't think she carries it through the whole day, but it takes up her morning. So I imagine, and I don't want to speak for her, but I imagine the bulk of her morning schedule is not devoted to Scentsy. So she works that in around the skeleton structure of what she has. Of course, dinner for us is between 5 and 6. So I don't, I'm not scheduling calls or doing things. I do offer coaching or I call them connection calls, but they're coaching calls. But I only do that 3 days a week. And again, as part of my leadership, it's a non-negotiable. However, that's part of my skeleton structure. So outside of that, if someone wants to have a call with me, it has to be within that time frame because I make time for it. So again, the only way you're going to know what your skeleton structure is to sit down and write it out. Like if you have a full-time job, 8 to 5. If you're someone who's like, I don't know if any of you are nurses, but I imagine there's not really a whole lot of time if you're running around a hospital floor that you can devote to looking at your phone. That's just not the type of job that you have. If you have a desk job, you probably have a little more flexibility there, but prioritizing and doing focusing on those 3 things, no matter how much time you have, that's really important. So that first one is do. So I'm going to turn it over to Morgan so she can share her thoughts.
So I definitely agree. I feel like our morning routine and all that stuff is pretty similar because I'm the same way. If I don't get up at 6:30 max, like at the latest, my workout isn't going to happen. And then I'm going to be in a horrible mindset for the day. I'm going to be in not good mood. Like I'm not going to be a fun person to be around. I'm not going to be motivated. I can't get on social media and post something inspirational if I didn't get my mind right that morning. I can't be a nice parent to my kid if I didn't get my mind right that morning. Like if he comes in there waking me up and he's in a bad mood first thing in the morning, I'm like, it's horrible. So if I already have my mindset right in the morning, then I'm good. And then same for my business. I mean, you can't pour into your customers, your leaders, your team if you're not in a good place. So it's very important, like she said, to figure out what your non-negotiables are. And part of that is self-care, whatever that looks like for you, whether it's first thing in the morning or late at night. I know some people have their time at nighttime because they can't do it in the morning for whatever reason, or maybe you're just not a morning person and you do better at night. I used to not be a morning person, but I had to force myself to be because I had no choice. So I get up at 6 first thing in the morning. I do my workout and my son goes to school about the same time, 9 o'clock. And then I'm usually starting my work day around 10 because I do come home. I spend a little bit of time with my husband in the morning. We have breakfast together. This morning we went and ate breakfast together. So that's always nice. And then I start my day around 10. And I plan my days in 30-minute increments. So I have these, this is a happy planner. I have the classic size happy planner, and I buy these 30-minute increment daily sheets. Holy crap, they've been a lifesaver because I used to be really bad about putting way too much on myself in a day. Like I would be like, oh yeah, I'm superwoman. I can do all these tasks and I have plenty of time. And then I try to do them and like half of them get done because I didn't actually have enough time in the day to do all of them. I'm a workaholic. Like I just want to do all the things. And plus when you love your job, it's really easy to want to do all the things in a day. And then you overload yourself and then you're outside of your boundaries because you're working outside of your work hours, and then you get burnt out and it's just not a good thing. So like she said, non-negotiables, like for me, it's school, it's appointments, it's, whatever, getting my nails done. Like you have to put yourself and your self-care first too. And then of course your family's appointments, sports. We're not in sports right now, but we're going to be back in it before too much longer. Like there's a lot. And then also date nights. Like you need to be dating your spouse or whoever, your significant other. You need to be setting aside time for that. Like me and my husband literally have to schedule in time for each other, which is kind of sad, but we do. But it's because we're intentional about it. We know how important our marriage is. And it's just like, scheduling intentional time with your kids. You have to do that with your spouse too, because you can't forget that. I mean, don't put the reason I'm saying this, don't put your business over your spouse. Like you have to be setting aside time for them or they're going to hate your business and you're going to start to hate your business. So That's very important. And then work your day around. I mean, she covered that. Like, you know what IPAs you need to do, you know what doesn't have to be done. And it's okay to just focus on a few things and doing those few things well, instead of trying to do a bazillion things and you can't even get it done and it's stressing you out. Because like I said, I used to be really bad about that. So I really started trying to focus on doing a few things well, and it really makes a big difference. So find systems that work for you. I hope and pray that all of you already have systems for your business. If you don't, please get systems in place, because I promise you, you're going to outgrow, or you're going to grow really big, and then you're going to be losing your mind because you can't keep up. You can't keep track of things. Your team's way too big. You're like, I can't, I'm one person and this is too much, and it's going to get overwhelming. So if you don't have systems, get systems in place. For me, I used paper systems for probably 5 years. And then finally I was like, I cannot do this anymore. Like, I outgrew it. I couldn't keep up with it anymore. I switched to Amy. Thank God they made Amy. So I switched to Amy, and then all of my systems are digital now. They're all in a Google Drive. And so I can pull it up on my computer. I can pull it up on the Google Drive app on my phone, and it's in a cloud. So it's all there. I mean, if I'm sitting at my computer, I can pull it up and see, okay, what orders do I need to enter? Who do I need to follow up with? Or if I'm sitting on the couch, I can pull it up on my phone, and same thing. So it's really, really nice to have something like that in a cloud if you're using digital type systems. But Amy is so good for a lot of things. I mean, you can use it for your team. Like, it's amazing. I don't know what we did before that, because like, I don't even know how I used to keep up with my follow-up binder and all that stuff. It stresses me out just thinking about it. So you've got to realize that your business is going to get really big. You're going to outgrow things. Things are going to change. You're going to have to adapt. I think we all are really good at adapting after 2020. So just know that things are going to have to be changed. The minute you start feeling overwhelmed, like you can't keep up with something, you need to change it. Talk to somebody who has a bigger business than you and be like, what do you use? How did you manage this? Like, because you'll know when your business starts to get really big to where you feel like you just can't keep up with anything.
Oh, I have no shame. I have no shame. I actually have to credit you, Morgan, for the Google Drive, because I wasn't doing that. Like, I had albums, and the problem is over time, as our group's gotten bigger and things sort of, like you said, they grow, people would be like, where was that flyer that was, shared about a year ago? And then you're searching through the files in your Facebook group, and like, you can't see thumbnail pictures. So you have no idea until you open it. And sometimes you have to download it in order to see it. And if it's named weird, and then you're going through albums and groups, and it's just, you're trying to pull from too many places. And I just love the idea, because now everything is in one spot. You click one link, everything is there in one spot. And so I really have to thank you for that. It was just such an easy system to implement too. It took no time. I mean, setting it up took a little bit of time, but it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, just like with any system, it's going to be time consuming initially, like to get everything together, but then from there on out, it's the best. Like, it's, somebody asks for something, Google Drive. Like, it's,
and that's what I've been saying. I'm like, have you checked the Google Drive? Have you checked the Google Drive? Have you checked the Google Drive? And it's still something I feel like I'm being pretty repetitive about it, because some of my team members keep coming to the page and asking for a specific image or the breakdown for the 10 bars. And it's just reminding them, because it's somewhat new still for us. So I keep having to remind them, here's the Google Drive, or I tag them in the announcements where I keep it. And it's just so freeing. And speaking of freeing, you have to recognize, and I didn't mention this before, you have to recognize your time wasters. I purposely do not have TikTok. Number one, I don't have TikTok, and this is just me. It's personal. I don't look down on anyone who has a TikTok. I don't have TikTok because I don't want my children on TikTok. And as a parent, personally, I don't judge anyone that does, but personally, I feel like I have to be an example. And if I'm sitting there scrolling TikTok all day, you don't know who's cussing and who's swearing. It's just not stuff I want my kids to hear. So I don't have a TikTok. The other thing I noticed is that even my own husband, he got hooked on it because my sister showed it to him. He can scroll TikTok videos for like an hour, and he sends me links to them. And so I'll watch him if he finds one that's funny that he thinks I'll like, but I don't go on TikTok. I don't have, nothing. I mean, I've seen cute videos come up, and so like the TikTok made me do it stuff, but for me, like Morgan said, that would be, I mean, total waste of my time. I would get nothing done because I know I'm already easily distracted. I'm already too busy with Facebook and Instagram and follow up and all the things I need to do in a day that I don't know where I would be able to fit TikTok. So I don't do anything with it.
I'm the same way. I focus on Instagram and Facebook, and it helps that they're linked. So like when you're doing stories, you're doing 2 stories at one time, which is nice. But yeah, that's like how Instagram Reels is. If you ever watch a reel, you're going to end up watching 100 of them because you're just going to keep, like, they're so addictive. Like, you really have to be aware of what you're doing. Like, you're letting your phone control your mind and you don't even realize it. It's crazy. So I have this pinned to the top of my pages. So my leadership group, my director group, and my team page. It's part of the announcements. We have other stuff too, but it says your resources, but then it says group Google Drive under it. The reason I didn't just put group Google Drive is because some people have no clue what a Google Drive is. They're like, a Google, what is what? So your resources catches their attention because they're like, okay, this is tools I can use. So I did put, I have all the images up there, and then just in the caption of it, it has whatever information they need. So it says, here's our group Google Drive with tons of resources for you. And then it's got the link to the Google Drive. But yeah, that Google Drive, I'm telling you, for your personal business, for your team, like the best thing ever. I got the idea from Chloe and Justin Cox. They have a group of like 15,000 people. So they, of course, I think it was 2 years ago that they started doing the Google Drive because they outgrew their business. And I think they only had 5,000 at the time, not only, but compared to 15,000, that's only. Right. But they had outgrew theirs and they started doing that. And I was like, that is genius. So I think I had maybe 1,000 in my group, maybe not even that many when I implemented it. And thank God I did, because it's been a lifesaver.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously I'm only representing everyone outside of your organization because you're already an SSD. So, I mean, mine isn't even that big, but I can already feel the overwhelm. I don't like scrambling. I don't want to be burnout. So when I saw it, I thought, I can invest an afternoon, I can move something else and get into that. So yeah, that's what.
Yeah. And it's best to start things before you get to the point that you really need it, because you don't want to reach that point and be like, what do? I'm overwhelmed. I'm just going to shut down and not do anything. And then you're moving 5 steps backwards. So if you start the systems now that you can maintain as your business gets really big, then it will be so much better. Hello.
Exactly.
So she's always doing her own thing. Here she comes.
She just wants your attention.
But yeah, structuring your day, prioritizing your day, having a good routine, like all of that, it puts my mind in a better place when I have a good routine and structure in place. I do not function in chaos. Like, I'm just not a happy person to be around when I don't have structure.
Yeah. So that skeleton structure is important.
All right. So number 2 is defer.
Yeah, defer, delay. So I'm going to cover a little bit, and of course Morgan will pitch in after me, but so this one is really where time management really fits. And if you kind of think of this like a square, they all sort of connect 4, you can kind of remember it like that. But this piece here is really the true time management piece, because once you have your skeleton structure, you have to sort of, again, go back to prioritizing outside of IPA. If there's something that, it needs to be done, but it's not super time sensitive, can it be delayed or can it be deferred? So for example, I wrote down here in listening to the podcast, something like date night. I'm not saying cancel your date night. And Jessie Lee certainly wasn't saying cancel your date night, but let's say, you'd like to get to dinner by 7, but you maybe scheduled a connection call and you're like, well, I'll just cancel the connection call. They'll understand. No, you made a commitment to that, and you should keep that commitment, because that expresses your who you are as a leader. And then you're teaching your team members what kind of commitment and what kind of leader they are, right? Because if you're just canceling things that come up all the time, your leaders are going to, well, leaders and team really, but they're going to feel not important and that your business is not important to you or that you're not committed. So if you did schedule a call, or maybe by accident, this is why that skeleton structure is important. Maybe by accident, you scheduled a date night dinner for 7 and you had a call at 6:50 or 6:30 and it ran over, whatever. It's not that date night's not important, but it's something that as long as you discuss it with your spouse, you can delay it a little bit and still get on that, but put those important time commitments you've made. But again, if it's something like making samples, that can be delayed. For example, one thing that I do every month is I send little thank you packets to customers. I'd like to have them all out by the middle of the month, but truth be told, not all of my customers order before the 15th of the month. So I prep them. I have to get my scent and warmer of the month in. So I generally have a window, like my scent and warmer of the month kit should be here anytime. So once it gets here, I'll make those samples and I'll get them out. But if something is delayed from Amazon or something's delayed from Scentsy, I just fit that somewhere else into my skeleton structure where I know I don't have something else. This isn't going to be something that makes or breaks your business. What makes and breaks your business is sales, sponsoring, and leadership. So again, if you're in the do it and you're just getting it done, there's nothing wrong with that if you don't get other things done. And that's what we want to stress to you. So again, if there's something in your business that can be delayed, or maybe you think it can't be delayed, I would love if maybe those of you that are on live watching tonight, if you could maybe drop something in the comments that maybe you think maybe it's a priority and a do it now, or maybe you're not sure if it's a priority and you should do it now. I'd love to see in the comments if there's something that you're doing that maybe it could be delayed, or so we can help you sort of set those priorities. But I'll let Morgan share her thoughts because I know she's got examples of what she does.
I'm really good at delaying things that I want to put off.
Me too.
Sometimes it's not a good thing, but yeah, I mean, I've been delaying things all week ever since last Thursday because we had personal things come up that we didn't expect to be taking like all day long. But that is why our business is such a blessing, because I used to be really bad about like letting my business interfere with my personal life, because I am such a hard worker and I am so passionate about my business. I literally treat it like I'm going to a full-time job. And so I'd be really bad about like, well, this has to get done right now. But really, no, it does not. Unless it's a coaching call that I have scheduled. And when Emily says connection call, she means coaching call, action call, one-on-one, whatever you call it, all the same thing. But the only things that are timely for me is if I have a training scheduled like this or a coaching call. So all the other things, it is not going to kill your customers if you follow up with them a day late, but just don't get in the habit of putting it off day after day after day. But don't let your business interfere with the other things, the things that you're doing Scentsy to be able to spend more time doing, the people that you're doing Scentsy to be able to spend more time with. Don't let it take over in that aspect of life. It's so easy to do when you treat this like a business and you are a director or above and you have all these team members relying on you and all these customers. So like she said, learn to know when things are timely, priority, or they're not, like they can be pushed off. Where am I at in my notes? I haven't even read anything from my notes, I don't think. You don't have to do everything, and everything doesn't have to be done now. I had that written down. That's exactly what I just said pretty much. And also, so there's a system in my group Google Drive that and Emily may have something similar, but I have a master schedule for my business. And that schedule is for me, it's for my assistant, it's for like my husband, so that everybody knows what I'm doing and when. Like, it's mainly for me to use as a guide to plan my month out. So I always plan my entire month. Like, usually at the end of a month, I'm trying to go ahead and plan the following month, because when the first hits, things are crazy and I'm doing recognition and I'm doing all these things. So I try to start planning it like at the end of the month, and I literally just pull up that schedule, and I have that schedule in my Google Drive. It's like an Excel spreadsheet, and I have little tabs. So I have week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. It has day by day what things I need to be working on. So I do something kind of like scalable systems, like Christina Stainbrook has taught before, if y'all have ever heard that. I kind of do that. So I have like, I know on Tuesdays I have to do customer follow-up, also on Thursdays. So I do customer follow-up on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm like checking in with hosts and things like that on Tuesdays and Thursdays. On Wednesday, it's all team stuff. I know that I have coaching call availability 3 days a week, but only during weeks 2 and 3. I'm not doing coaching calls the first week or the last week of the month because it's just way too much for me. I know that I'm doing my trainings for my team and my leaders the second week of the month on Tuesday and Thursday. Like those are the things that I know are non-negotiable, and I can work everything else around that. But that's in my schedule. So it's like, I'm not even having to think about what I have to do that month. I can just pull straight from that schedule, plan all of my weeks out for the month. And then on Sunday night, I always make sure that my week is correctly planned. Cause I mean, things change, things come up, you may have to redo it. So I always make sure my week is completely planned, and I use these daily planner sheets so that I can make sure like that my time slots are right, that I actually have enough time to do everything I want to do in the day so that I'm not stressing out over rushing to get something done. So really be careful with your boundaries and how often you're working with people one-on-one and doing trainings and stuff like that. If you're like me, that's mentally exhausting for me. Like, I guess because I'm an introvert, like I absolutely love coaching people. I love pouring into people. I love training. But if I'm doing too much of it, first of all, it's taking away from the other income producing things. Like I used to could do a training for my team every Wednesday night, and I just can't do that now. I do it once a month, and then I'll do like random pop-in lives. But I know for me personally that I can only commit to 3 days a week for coaching calls, and I only do maximum 2 a day, because I used to would try to do 3 a day, and I would just be at the end of the day like, oh my gosh, I have no brain power left. Like it's just so much for me. So know what is healthy for you, know what is gonna not exhaust you and still bring you joy, because I enjoy coaching calls, but when I was overwhelmed with too many of them, I easily started not enjoying them because I was overworking myself. So just know what works for you, and everybody's going to be different depending on your job and all that. So, I mean, not everybody has the same amount of hours in a week. Eventually you will, if this isn't your full time yet, but you got to work to get there. So,
and the sad thing is that people tend to delay the things that they need to do, but they will prioritize the things that they enjoy. And in some cases, that's okay. But when it comes to our business, those really important things like following up, even though when you really don't want to, and I'm guilty of this too, right? Because I see a list of 10 people that I know I need to follow up with, and I'm like, oh, but I'd rather put together my customer goodie packs. That's not, I mean, that's thanking someone after the sale. I'm like, no, Emily, no, just get it done, get it done. And then that's where the list comes in, right? Because then I can cross off and be like, I followed up with 10 people today, yay. And so then I can reward myself by doing the things in my business I want to do.
yeah.
And truthfully, those important things don't take much time at all, because if you set a goal every day that where you just take that 15 minutes, like Morgan was saying with Amy, I so guilty. I was using Amy when it first came out for a long time, but there were so many advancements that were happening so quickly. I got in a sense of chaos and overwhelm with the program itself, not with what Amy is, but just it overwhelmed me. And so I took a step back, and I'll be honest, seeing all those notifications of things that I hadn't gotten done, I was like, oh, I'm never going to get it done. And so I just kind of stepped away from it. I need to invest the time and find places where I can, take the time to really learn the program again, especially because now that we have that roll up happening now. I don't know how many of you have received downline roll-up notifications from Sensi letting you know that, you know, their previous sponsor has left or didn't fulfill that requirement for leaders that they require now, you know, the 200 once every 4 months. Now I have like 140 frontline. Like that's way more than I, you know, have ever had. And again, not all because I've recruited them all, but now I need a better system for finding a way to connect with these people. That's an area where I know I need to improve my leadership, is connecting. So now that I recognize that, this isn't something I can delay, right? Because now that leadership portion, or that portion of what I just mentioned, is a leadership aspect. So that's now an IPA for me. So I have to take that time to really invest in connecting with my frontline because I have so many.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm not gonna lie, because I have almost 200 frontline, and it is tough. Like,
There's no way you can have a personal relationship with every single one. So the
yeah,
last thing Morgan and I are going to tell you to do is to go out and try to be everybody's best friend, because it's just not going to happen. You are going to have people that you connect with on more of a, you know, you guys just vibe better. Like, I mean, Morgan and I are pretty close. Holly and I are pretty close. Lori and I are pretty close, but I'm not that way with everyone on my team. I tend to, you know, the ones that tend to put more into their business, yeah, because they're just sort of, that's where their focus is, and because this is my full-time business, that's an area that we can relate on, you know. And of course, if we have kids or we have pets or we have similar secular interests, then of course that just makes it even easier to vibe. But you know, it's one of those things, you do your best, and that's okay, and we're going to talk about that near the end. But yeah, so I mean, I think that covers Delay It. Nobody has any questions so far, do they? I see a couple of comments.
I do like that Holly said eat that frog, because I was
Yes.
thinking that when we were talking about, when you were talking about how you put things off, or we, whatever, put things off that we don't enjoy to do things we do enjoy. If y'all have never heard that, eat the frog, it's such a good tip. So eating the frog basically means putting the most dreaded task first in your day, so that you can just get it over with, knock it out, and then reward yourself with the things you do enjoy. So yes.
Yeah. Brittany said literally had to switch once a month trainings, two once a month trainings, not weekly. I'm having to slow down on coaching calls because I've done 2 a day, 5 days a week. That is a lot. Wow.
Oh, loud. Oh,
yeah.
loud.
I mean,
and gives me a panic attack just thinking.
I have to say, I think it's pretty amazing that you've had that many people interested in coaching calls. I've never even had that many people interested in a coaching call with me all at once. I mean, I get a few, they all, you know, the links go out in my welcome emails. That's a system I have. So I do have a lot of those new consultants that come in, but like not to that extent. So I can understand, you know, moving that, because again, you recognize that your IPAs probably were suffering as a result of offering these coaching calls. And while that leadership aspect is important, it's not the only aspect. And if you don't have your sales in and you don't have your sponsoring locked down, I mean, yeah, that's not going to work at all. So.
All right. So we'll go to Delegate.
Delegate. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty excited for this one.
We both like delegating, apparently.
So I have a couple of examples. So basically, Delegate is just how it sounds. Figure out a way to maximize the time that you spend in your business doing the things that make you money. Okay, not cost you money. So for me, I have a couple of things. So, you know, remember. Sensi offers free corporate training twice a week, 3 times a week. I lied. So we have the all consultant training call every Tuesday. If you're a director, we have the director and above. You all are, obviously. We have the director and above call on Mondays. Then on Tuesday afternoons, I believe it's Jason. He shares a little golden nugget every week. And then Sarah shares something on Thursday, I believe. So there is literally so much information being put out. It's almost an overload. So as the sort of this recurring theme that I've heard from some of my leaders anyway, and Lori and Holly have their cameras on, they can nod if they agree. The recurring theme I've heard from some of my leaders in the past is that I don't know what else to say to my team. I feel like I've said it all, right? Like when it comes to training, I'm out of ideas of what to say. The nice thing about Sensi is that you don't have to. Sensi offers amazing, those corporate all consultant training calls. If you haven't been on them lately, they are fire. They are so good, and they are interactive. Sarah's really great about interacting with the person that's giving the talk. And it's always a different SSD or a director, so you're getting all kinds of different perspective all the time. And there is always prizes given at the end for people who attend live. So there's sort of an incentive to attend live, which, I mean, hey, doesn't have to come out of your pocket. And if you're really feeling like you're just not inspired to create content, we don't have to do that, because Sensi provides it to us for free. So utilize that resource and delegate some of that training to Sensi. Let Sensi cover that. But again, you have to make sure that it's always at the forefront of your consultant's mind. So for me, I do less like lives and training on my team page, and that's what works for me, because I was getting like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to say anymore. So I refer them, I delegate, hey, look, Sensi's got an all consultant training call. It's Training Tuesday, sort of like the sustainable systems that Morgan was just saying that she does with like copying Christina Stainbrook. I sort of have like every day something else, like Wax Wednesday or Wahoo Wednesday, where I recognize different things. And I'm not perfect. Sometimes I'm just not online because I've got something going on, but that's sort of the skeleton structure I follow. So the all consultant training calls, refer your teammates to that. If they feel like they need sort of a pick me up with recruiting, and that's coming up on an all consultant training call, offer that. You don't have, especially if recruiting maybe isn't your strong suit. It's not that it can't be one day, but it would be terrible if you tried to give advice in an area where you know that you're not the best at. It's really important that you be authentic. So refer them someplace like, again, the training center or to another leaders trainings. But I personally recommend stick with the corporate stuff, because that's easy to duplicate when it comes to your growth overall. The other thing that I was going to mention was there was three things that I wanted, and I'll be real quick and then I'll refer it over to Morgan. But every Tuesday night, I share a call with 6 other SSDs. We call it Dreamstruck Tuesday. I was actually invited to participate by another SSD, and I will tell you, it's been phenomenal, because the turnout by having 7 SSDs in our groups, allows for there to be a lot of conversation, never feels stale. And I get to, again, collaborate with other leaders, see other perspectives, and all the weight of training is not on me. I show up, I share a piece, but I don't have to come up with an hour's worth of content. So that Dreamstruck is really nice. And I know that they feel the same way, because now it's, if their team says, well, I need more training, hey, come over to Dreamstruck Tuesday. Or again, if you're not available in the evenings, take advantage of the corporate trainings in the morning. And then just recently over the summer, I did a Dash to Director training with my leaders, and every week a different director gave the talk, because we had a little Zoom meeting, and then there was homework that they had to complete before the next week would start. So, I think I covered 2 out of the 6 weeks that we did it, and I had volunteers. So it's nice to be able to delegate that, so it's not all on your shoulders. And then of course, in terms of delegating also, I had at one time, I don't have her anymore, and I'll talk a little bit about that when we cover the last point in our call tonight. But I had, when the pandemic first started, I had my sister working for me as my assistant. She was off work due to a back injury. And so I said, you know what, I could really use some help in my office. I'll pay you cash under the table. And she said, okay, yeah, sounds great. So I had her doing the things that I'm like, I need to focus on these important areas of my business. So I'd really like it if you could help take some of the burden off of me. So she did a lot of my customer mailing, my team mailings. She would run reports, she would send emails. And so that was really beneficial to me at that time. So again, where you can delegate it, do that. Before I turn it over, I want to share last month. It wasn't my biggest paycheck ever, but it was one of them. It was probably the second biggest. And when I broke it down, and I had to kind of guesstimate, because I don't keep an actual like schedule of how many hours I work. I kind of have an idea. So based on the hours I worked per day for the month divided over what my paycheck was, it came out to $158.33 an hour is what I was, and that's American. Oh no, yes, because I changed it, because originally I had it in Canadian. Like no one Canadian is on this call but me, so I'm going to switch it over to American dollars. So I figured it out, and I made $158.33 an hour. And on the Bossly podcast, if you guys do decide to go back and watch that, she talks about how, she wanted to move a bunch of boxes in her living room. And her friend was like, girl, you are not moving those boxes. And she goes, yeah, I am, because they're in, I can't stand them sitting there. And he goes, the amount of money you make per hour, he said, you could hire someone and pay them $2,500 an hour to move those boxes for you. What he was saying was not to gloat and say, oh, you're rich. What he was trying to tell her was that your time is precious. It's valuable. And things that are not going to make you money, like moving those boxes, if you can afford it, let someone else take care of it. So, that might be when you hear about some SSDs that, and maybe some of you already do it, I don't know, hiring like a house cleaner, for example. It's not because you're snobby or rich, it's because you know that you need to make time for your business. And if you're going to get distracted, like I am, being at home all the time by all the things like Morgan mentioned earlier that need to get done in your house, if you can delegate and say, have a house cleaner come over once or twice a week and pay her, $20 an hour, how much time does that free up for you that you can use that time to make more money? And that's really the point of this, is that, you are the captain of your ship. I mean, and you're the one that directs where everything goes. So you cannot be doing all the menial tasks yourself, because if you want to make big money, you have to make big moves. So I'm sure Morgan has more, that she has stuff she wants to add. So I don't want to monopolize this. So I'll let you take it away.
That's funny, because I added my hourly pay up and it was $150. So it's like almost the same as yours.
So I did the math, Morgan, because I remember seeing yours because you sent it to me, and I made just under 25,000 Canadian, but of course the currency exchange, right? Like the Canadian dollar is not as strong. So when I worked it out, we were literally like within a couple $100 of each other, making the same amount.
That's amazing.
Wild. Yeah.
I was just talking to another SSD today, and we were talking about how, like, when we see the amount of money that goes into our account and we're going to transfer it, it's like, it doesn't even feel real still. Like, I don't think it ever will. It's like, how is this possible? It's unbelievable.
I am a high school graduate, no college education. And I don't know, how many jobs do you know besides a lawyer and maybe a plastic surgeon making, over $150 an hour? I mean, maybe the ones in Beverly Hills in New York City, but
but we also work way less hours than those people. So,
and exactly. We're not leaving our kids. We're not trading time for money necessarily, in a sense, which is incredible.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, everything she said is just thinking like a business owner, having a business mindset. And for some people, it's a lot harder to get into that because you're just not naturally business minded. Like, luckily, me and my husband both are naturally that way. So we both we think the same, we share ideas. He helps me tremendously. But sometimes it's harder to get into that mindset. So you just have to, I guess, train until you do. I mean, you have to learn to think like a business owner and be smart with where you're spending your time. And like she said, figure out what you make per hour. Like, your time is very valuable, and you probably make more per hour than you think you do. But what are we on? Delegate? Yeah. So delegation might be hard for you if you're like me and you are a control freak and you want to do all the things and you think you can do everything and you want it done your way. And when I shifted my mindset from that to let other people do some things and take some of that workload off of me and stop feeling like I was supposed to be everything for everybody, that is when my business shifted. So about 2 years ago was when I started saying, okay, I'm going to ask people to share on my team page how they're working every day. I'm also sharing, of course, because I'm not going to not show my team that I'm working, but it's not a place where it's only me sharing anymore. We have a leadership group that's the same way. It's our leaders sharing. It's them taking on that role of sharing things and giving their knowledge and their tips and realizing that they have value to add. So not only does it take the stress off of you and delegate things to them, it empowers them to be a better leader and to step into that leadership role and believe that they are a leader and that they are worthy of sharing things. That's a very identifiable trait also. Like if you're trying to identify who your rising leaders are, who you really want to be coaching, look for the people that are doing that. Look for the people who are sharing and trying to help other people. That's a huge identifier for identifying leaders. And they probably don't have a clue that they're a leader, but you can point that out in them, tell them, I see you doing the things that a leader does. Let's dive into that. So that's off topic, but anyway, so delegate.
No, it's totally not, because I wrote down, and you hit it right on the head, because I said in my notes, I wrote tons of things on my paper. I said, recognize by asking, those leaders, like Morgan just said, people who you see making those moves, doing those things, ask them to contribute what's working well for them. Ask them to do a live on your page, or invite them to be a guest speaker on a call if you do them, or just give them reasons and elevate them, lift them up, because it's going to help build their confidence and develop some of those leadership skills that they're going to need.
Yeah, and it gives your team a different face to look at, a different voice, a different perspective. Like me and Emily are both successful superstar directors, but we both work differently. We're both different people. We have different lifestyles, like everything. It's so important to have other perspectives. You don't want to be the only one training your team. They're going to get sick of you. And you're going to get sick of doing it.
Say that all the time. They're like, can someone else come and talk to my team? I think they're so tired of hearing from me. And it's so true. So give people opportunities. Like Morgan said, it can be hard if you're a control freak, but this is one of those little baby steps into helping you maybe get over some of that, right? Like if you can delegate something, because in the end, it's going to free you so much. And you're going to say, why didn't I do this sooner?
Mm-hmm. So delegating your training calls, like last month, I had a team call on parties. I let one of my rock stars, who is a party queen, I let her do the whole training. Like, you don't have to feel like just because you're the leader that you have to do it all. You need to let other people do it. It helps so much. Like I said, that's a mindset shift I had that really changed my business. Like it started growing so much more rapidly because that is a way to develop leaders, and it's taking stress off of you at the same time. Delegating time wasting stupid things like labeling and like I hate doing stuff like that. Delegate it to your kids, delegate it to your spouse, your sister, your babysitter, like whoever. If you have an assistant, that's something they need to do. You don't need to be wasting your time doing that. Like Emily said, you have to be spending your time doing the income producing things. So you just have to realize there comes a point where you don't have time to do those things. Like I don't have time to make samples. My assistant does it. She does every single one of my samples. She labels all my product. And half the time I don't even label my product. Let's be honest. If you're following up with people, they know who to come back to in order. But
and you're giving great customer service too.
Yeah. Thank you mail. She does all my thank you mail. Team mail. She does all my team mail. Like she does all those things that are time suckers for me. It would take me 2-3 hours to do team mail, and I can pay her $10 an hour, $20-$30. She takes care of it. And I can spend those 2 hours coaching people or training, like whatever I need to do. It's actually, or following up with customers, like making me money. So delegate everything you can possibly do. There's the things that only you can do, which are taking care of your customers, doing parties, taking care of your leaders. Like you need to do the things that only you can do. Delegate the rest, even things that don't bring you joy. If it's something that somebody else can do, delegate it. Like if it's bringing you stress and it's not something that you can delete, delegate it. We're going to talk about delete, but
yep. And that's actually a great segue to lead into that.
Yeah. I think I covered everything. So yeah, go ahead.
You did. Yeah, I think you did. So the last one, and we want to be respectful of your time tonight. So we're going to try to make this last bit really count. And we want to leave a few minutes open for questions if any of you have them. The last point, the four corners or the 4 points that make a square is delete. And I imagine you guys already know what that is. What is absolutely not serving you in your business that you can let go or delete from your business and your life. So one thing I will say is another reason to recognize the time wasters is because it can zap your mental and physical energy. There was a time that at one time, what made me feel inspired eventually made me feel envy. And I recognized that I was following and I was scrolling way too much. And I was starting to feel like, we talk about that comparison monster. Comparison is the thief of joy. And that was doing that for me. And so I'm still friends with a lot of Scentsy people, but I don't follow them. I follow teenies, like I follow Morgan, obviously we're friends, and I follow Holly and Lauren. Like I don't, people who I have a relationship with, I still follow those ones. And I am inspired by those people, but the ones where I just sort of feel like they're always on, they're always doing, maybe things where I'm like, if it's making me feel some kind of way, in a way that I don't like feeling, I know that that's on me and not on them. So I just have to I have to have a perspective shift. So for me, it was unfollowing some of those people, finding ways to have gratitude. So one thing my husband says all the time is, if you want more than what you have, you're only poor if you want more than what you have. So I try to wake up every day with a feeling of gratitude in my heart. And I think about, I get to do this. And I know that not many people do. Morgan used to work a full-time job. I know Jill said she works a full-time job still, or she did. I don't know.
She just quit.
Oh, yay, that's so awesome. Yay, go Jill. So, those types of things, like some people don't have a choice. My husband threw out his back recently and he was laid, this is the second time he's hurt himself. And I just don't know that his job's going to work out. If we didn't have Scentsy, I'd be telling them, I'm really sorry that your back hurts, but you're going to have to go back to work. And I'm so grateful to be able to say, if you can't do this anymore, then quit. It's not worth your health. It's not worth your body, because he works because he likes to, and it's nice for him to have a little extra money. He's not someone who can just sit. That's something that my husband and Morgan's husband, Derek, have in common, is like, they're not just sitters. They need to be doing something. You can only do so many.
Now that he doesn't work, because he's always finding something to
do. Well, David was just like, there were times where like he was just getting to a point where he needed, he enjoys work. And I mean, we're designed that way. But, this job was really labor intensive. So he's hurting himself. So it's really important that, he take the time that he needs to heal. Yeah. Jill just said, protect your peace. And that's what it is. So if that job isn't bringing you joy, obviously within reason, you can't just quit if you don't have a backup plan, but I'm grateful that Scentsy is that. So that's why I have that grateful attitude, that, I get to wake up and do this. And that's an attitude we should all have, not like, oh, I have to follow up today. I have to deliver orders today. No, think about the fact that you get to do something that like less than 5% of, network marketers or anybody in this either profession or even in this world in terms of jobs, like you get to do this. You want to swing by Starbucks and get a coffee while you do your deliveries because that brings you joy? Great, do it. So, at the end, I was mentioning just a little bit earlier that my sister Natalie was my assistant, and she was doing like a lot of my samplings and stuff like that. Well, she ended up having to go back to work. As much as I wanted to, I wish my business paid so much that I could afford to put Natalie on my payroll and just totally replace her income at her job. But I'm not at a place yet where I can do that.
I
One
want to do
day,
that so
one
bad.
day.
I can't stand it.
Yeah, that would be amazing to have a full-time employee on my schedule and know that, you know, I paid her salary so that she could stop doing something she doesn't love. But ultimately, you know, we were talking about it and I just said, I can only afford to pay you this much, but it would require, I need you to work more. And unfortunately, her schedule still, through her full-time job, it still paid more and it dictated more. Near the end, she was getting to a point where she was having to miss time with me because her job kept calling her in, and because it paid her more than I did, it just got to a point it was getting really hard to manage. And I was having to pick up the slack where she wasn't here. And so I didn't hold it against her. I just said, you know, Nat, if you have to go back, like, I understand. I have to keep the ball rolling, because once you kind of stop, then things, you know, it all snowballs. So I said, so that was a time for me to reflect. And part of this, you know, this last piece of this is, you know, just recognizing again that, you know, sometimes as your business evolves, you have to let things go. And so I stopped doing certain things in terms of recognition for my team. Like, I used to do the mailing because I had Natalie's help, but once she left, I knew I couldn't continue to do it. So now my recognition is pretty much all digital when it comes to team recognition. And that's actually worked out better for me. I find I'm getting a much better return. I have people telling me all the time how much they love it. So that works for me.
Tell them what you use, because I love your recognition.
Yeah, I use a program called Punchbowl. And actually I have to
So
give
cute.
credit to, yeah, I have to give credit to my sister, because she's the one that came across it. She said, what if I was spending a ton of money on postage, and it was just getting wild because shipping here in Canada is ridiculous. Like, if any of my directors ever get gifts from me, like, if I can direct ship it from the company, that's what I do, because it's very hard to ship things from here. Like, I just shipped a buddy to someone in the States, and it was $25. Just $25 to ship the buddy. That doesn't even include, like, Holly already knows, her and I ship stuff back and forth, and it's just wild. Like, she can't even believe it. So so I had to find ways to, you know, reorganize in my business. And so one of those things was I stopped doing, you know, writing mail, because I knew I couldn't manage it on my own. Like Morgan said, there's no way she'd be able to do it all. So I went digital for a lot of it, and it was super fast to set that all up. So that's a system for me. Where I've put a little more focus is my customer mail. So before, I had this system where it was like they get a sample for 3 months following a purchase. When Natalie was here, she helped me manage that system, but without her, it kind of got like, it was too much for me, because I was sending out like 150 to 200 a month. And for those people who were club customers, they were already getting this end of the month sample. So it was kind of redundant. So I was like, how can I make my customers feel totally valued and rock this customer service game? And so I decided to do something a little bit different. Now I send a goodie care package. It's more expensive for me, but now I'm just doing it in the month they purchase, and they get substantially more stuff. They're getting like 2 or 3 deluxe samples. They get a piece of candy. Sometimes it's a coupon. They're getting like a scent circle and thank you. So I'm telling you, my customers are loving it, and it's something I can manage. So I had to remove things that I knew I couldn't manage on my own. If and when I bring an assistant back on, maybe I'll change things up. But I let my customers know in advance of some of these changes in my VIP group, and they were totally on board. Like, they were like, oh yeah, we'd love to try it out. And they're giving me tons of great feedback. So it's worked for me. But don't feel like you need, you know, to do all the things or compare yourself to someone else's journey. You know, these are all things that you need to delete from your business. Anyways, go ahead, Mari.
And something else you have to realize when you're looking at other people's journeys is it may not be as pretty as it looks on social media. They may be stressed out to the max behind the scenes because all they do is work. And you don't know how much help they may have. Their spouse may be helping them 10 hours a week, and you don't even have a clue. Like, and you're like, well, if they can do all that, I can do that. But you don't know if they're actually doing all that. I mean, most people don't know I have an assistant, and she only works 5 to 10 hours a week. And that's only if it's like transition month, she's working more hours. She usually works like a few hours a week, but it helps me so much. But like Emily said, like, recognizing that she couldn't do team mail anymore, that she had to switch to emails, which saves her money and time, but she still wanted to do the mail for her customers. Customers always need to come before your team. That may sound bad, I don't know, but they did. That's the foundation of your business. Your customers are the foundation of your business. So they need to be prioritized over team things. So make sure you don't ever forget that, because that's very important, especially as your business grows. You become a leader, you become so much about your team, because we love our teams, but you have to stick with the basics, like go back to the basics if you're stressed out. And then I was going to say something to what you said, but I already forgot. But yeah, don't let your business become a burden. Make sure you're prioritizing things correctly and deleting things when needed. My business doesn't look anything like it did 7 years ago. I mean, 2 years ago, I was doing whiff boxes like of my own. Before Scentsy started whiff boxes, I was doing those, and they were so fun, but they were so time consuming, and they were stressing me out eventually. Like, I enjoyed them at first, and then they just started stressing me out. So I do like doing things like that, because I really like, that's like a creative outlet for me. I like to do themed things. And so now the way I do that is I do Scentsy Club mail every month. If their order billed that month, I do a cute little fun themed Scentsy Club mail out. My assistant puts those together for me too. So, but I come up with all the creative aspect of it. She doesn't do that. She just puts them together for me. So that's something I can still do, and still do that fun part of my business that I love, but it's not taking a bazillion hours like those whiff boxes were doing. I'm just letting Scentsy do the whiff box work now. So, and I'm making more money off of it. Let's be honest. I have $1,000 in club orders every single month at minimum, and most of them get a whiff box. So, make sure you learn to say no. So every time you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. If you're saying yes to something business-wise, you may be saying no to time with your family. So remember that, learn to say no. And one of the things that really shifted my mindset when I was getting into that, like trying to figure out how can I tell people no, because I'm a people pleaser. And like I said, I want to do all the things for everybody. And I had to realize I couldn't do that. But it was Chastity Robinson. I'll never forget it. I don't know if y'all know who she is, but she's amazing. She's in SSD too. She said in one of her trainings, if it's not, dang it, what did she say? If it's not a hell yes for me, it's a no. And that is like, that stuck with me. Like if it's a, well, I'd like to do it, but I don't really know if I have the time. You don't have the time. Just say no. It's fine. They'll live. You're not going to die. Nobody's going to die. It's going to be okay. I get people ask me all the time, like, can you do a training for my team? And I'm like, Jesus, fix it. I can't even do enough trainings for my team. No, I'm sorry. I can't. I love you, but I can't. Now, if it's a training swap, then that's a little different, because they can do a training for your team in place of you training your team. But I say no a lot now. And I used to try to say yes all the time. And all I did was stay stressed out and overwhelmed. So learn how to say no. Make sure you're saying no to the right things and not the wrong things, which we've kind of talked about already. Don't say no to the things that are actually important to your business. And I think that's about all I had. So we did have a question come through from Tara. I think it's the only question I've seen. Let me know if I missed other ones. Oh, and this is what I was going to add to when you're talking about your mail. So I bulk mine too. I think you said you do yours in bulk. So I bulk mine. They're all in a basket over here ready to go. I just add in extra samples or a scent circle based on the amount they spent. So mine are bulked and ready to go for the whole month though. And then once a week, I just mail out the ones from the week before who ordered. So I'm just sending a thank you to everybody who ordered. And if they're local, I'm putting it in with their bag. So that's how I do mine. But honestly, I am a week behind. So I'm going to just do 2 weeks at one time. Like none of us are perfect. So that's just what's going to happen this week. But so yeah, Tara asked on the assistant thing, she asked, do we really think that the majority of directors have the extra revenue to pay someone else to do those things for them? No, because I didn't until last year.
No, and I'll be honest, I think even some of the SSDs that you would probably think every SSD, no. I don't have one myself right now. And I mean, I had one because I had my sister. You had the ones that, I mean, people like, Chloe Cox, Carol Bishop Houck, the big organizations, like I know some that have a couple full-time employees. I know Becky Priest, some of you may know who she is. They have 2 or 3 full-time employees that probably handle different things. My upline, 80, I'm one of her paid generations. So I know that every once in a while I get some mail from her. So I know that's probably coming from an assistant, which is fine. But I know that she probably has someone too, but they've been in in the business a long time, and their organizations are huge, huge.
So, and I didn't hire an assistant until 2020, and it's because it was 2020 and I was stressed the crap out. Like, I'm like, what do I do? My whole life just turned upside down. My kid is not in school anymore, and he is a wild, crazy monkey child. So I'm like, how do I do this? So I hired my niece. She was 15 at the time, paid her very little money, and it was a lot to her. Like Brittany said, she paid her niece $5 a day.
Holly pays her kids $4 an hour to label and stamp. And she posted on Facebook all the time. It's a family business. So it's kind of a nice recruiting tool too.
Yeah. Pay your kids, pay somebody in Cincy. If you have a really good customer who's obsessed, but they don't want to join, pay them in Cincy. Like, use your host rewards, some of your host rewards. You don't even have to pay them technically. Use your host rewards, pay them in Cincy. There's so many things you can do. Just make it work for your budget. Do what you can. If you can't delegate everything, maybe you can delete some of those things. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I was not paying somebody $10 an hour until I hired an actual assistant last fall. But I was paying my niece like $20 to do like 4 hours of work. And I'm like over here, like asking my husband, is this enough money? Like, he's like, yeah, she thinks it's a lot of money. And I'm like, okay, because I'm sitting here thinking if I was making $5 an hour, no. But to kids, you can do things a lot differently when it comes to kids. But yeah, any more questions that y'all have?
Hannah had asked what program I used. Again, for anybody else who might be wondering or watching the replay, it's called Punchbowl. It is a free program. However, there is a premium option. So if you have the premium option, I believe you can add a video, which I've never messed around with, but I kind of want to try it. You can add a video option. There's more font options. There's more card and envelope options, like in terms of colors and designs. And because I was saving so much on postage, not having to reship mail that got returned to me because someone didn't update the address in their workstation. I just kind of took some of the money from that and reinvested it into Punchbowl, and I love it. And before I'd get mail and I'd be looking on Facebook to see, who got their mail, who was excited to get it, and I might get like 2 or 3 people tag me and say, I got happy mail. Yay. Thanks, Emily. And of course I really, when I lived in the States, I could mail, like a candy bar and a card. Like one time for my top 10, I did Have I Told You Recently How Awesome You Are? And it was just a card with like, just telling them they were top or whatever, top earner for that month. And I tied a Reese peanut butter cup chocolate bar to it. Well, for me to send that now to the States, it's like $10 to mail a $1 chocolate bar. My team would look at me like I was ridiculous. They'd be like, Emily, why are you doing that? That's the biggest waste of money. Like, that's so stupid. So instead, I might do like a Cheryl's cookie or something where it's like $5 shipped and I can send it direct from the company, right? I'm going to pay the currency exchange, but it's fine. But like it was, Punchbowl now, what's really cool is that when somebody opens up your digital card, they have the option to reply. And I have to tell you, the replies I get are so cute. Like Morgan, every time, like Morgan knows she's awesome. Like, hello. She probably doesn't, like I show Morgan recognition because, we have to show it to each other. I don't have anybody who recognizes me because I have a non-existent upline. And so, I know how important that recognition is no matter how often. So when I do send Morgan a card, she'll say, thank you, love you. And those things mean so much to me. I'm a big, acts of service is my main love language, but I also love words of affirmation. So being told that I'm doing a good job or that someone's proud of me or that they appreciate the effort that means a lot to me. So when I get those replies from the cards, and it takes 2 seconds because the reply is right there when someone opens the card, they can just shoot a little message and they say, thanks, Em, or I appreciate you, or it's nice to hear from you. One thing that I do, because again, remember I was saying how I have a lot of frontline and it's really hard to connect with them all. One thing that I do with Punchbowl is I try I don't try, I do it ever since I've done it. Every month, one of the things that I do right near the couple last days of the month is I go into my workstation and I run a team report, right? Because you can click on, my performance, click teams, and then it'll show you like team birthdays, team anniversaries, whatever. I go to the team anniversaries and I look at who has a anniversary for that month. And Punchbowl will actually allow you to schedule the card on the day you want it to send. So I spend, I don't
Ooh,
know,
that's nice.
30 minutes, because you'll notice those anniversary cards from Scentsy, mine always come a day early. I don't know why, but they don't come on my anniversary. So, but what's nice with Punchbowl is I can set those up. Like I go in, like for October, it was the couple last days of September, I was setting up all my October anniversary cards. And what it does, the program saves all of your cards that you've done in the past. Like Morgan, we were talking about how your Avery account, all your labels are saved and you just go in and change the name or the picture and it's done. Well, you can do that with Punchbowl. So you just copy the card, I change out the name and whatever year anniversary it is, I can figure that out because I'm looking at my workstation, right? Takes me 2 seconds. I schedule because it tells me what day their anniversary is. I schedule it for that day and boom, they get it on their anniversary. And although I don't personally connect with like all 140 of my frontline, I at least know that at least one day a year, they're getting something from me, that says, hey, I see you. I think you're amazing. And no matter how big your contribution is to Scentsy, you matter. And so I'm not perfect, but I try. And so this is just one of those ways that I try to connect. So that's one thing that I do.
Yeah, I like that because it's a lot of our people who are our top producers hear from us all the time, but it's easy for the ones who aren't doing 200 every year or whatever they're doing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
To
Yeah.
not hear from us. So
Yeah.
especially when your front line is huge.
Right. Right. And I do it for my whole team. So my front line, but I also do it for my team. Because right now, and again, the idea is as you bring out leaders, directors, those directors are going to take on some of that, right? Like I don't send anniversary emails to Holly's team. Holly can do that. I don't send it to Lori's team or Caitlin's team. They can do that. They're already getting one from Scentsy. And as their superstar director, if they're in my team and I'm directly responsible for them, yes, because again, that comes back to delegating, right? 4 points make a square. So I shouldn't have to do that when I have up and coming or directors that have their own teams. So again, I don't tell them they have to, but it's nice that, it's a sense of leadership that they can take over once they promote.
Yeah, that's important to know. I mean, because everybody here is a director or above, so you probably have directors underneath you. I know all of you probably don't, but most of you probably do. That's very important. You have to give those responsibilities to those directors because I have 1,700 people in my group. I can't take care of 1,700 people, but I have 21 directors who can take care of their teams. So yeah. I'm only taking care of my team and my directors. Like that is my only responsibility because I have these other directors who I've given the responsibility to step into that role and do the leadership things for their teams. And that allows them to create their own culture, to do things the way they want to do it.
Yes.
And
I couldn't agree more. And I have to say, one thing that I've always appreciated about my group, my organization as a whole, especially like with Morgan and all of my directors, is that we have a good, solid relationship. I can't tell you how many times, and Morgan can probably agree, she's probably seen it, how many superstar directors have taken to our official page and have complained that they've had toxic leadership within their downlines. And it almost always, and I mean, it's not always the case, but what happens is it seems people have a hard time letting go of control. And that's not an area that I've ever struggled with. And I don't think Morgan does either, because when Morgan promoted to superstar director, I just said, I'm here for you. Anything that you need, you let me know. But these are your people now. I mean, they were her people when she was a director too. I mean, she wasn't a star director very long, but when she promoted to SSD, she wanted to take the reins, and it wasn't, that's not my stewardship anymore. I don't even show up on your workstation. If I don't show up on your workstation, why do I need to be the one that's doing all the things? Like, people are going to be like Jill, she'd be like, I don't know you. Who are you? I know Hannah and I know Kelsey because, they've been around a long time. They were my downline. I was their upline superstar director before Morgan promoted, but, Jill, Tara, I mean, they all came in after Morgan was an SSD. So, those aren't things that, you just aged our Sensi time, Hannah says. That's so funny. But yeah, like Morgan and I have never had that relationship where I felt like it had to be me. I needed to be the one in the limelight. I just said, Morgan, if you need me, I'm here. And she took the reins. And I think that's where some of those SSDs struggle sometimes, or not just SSDs, but other leaders in Sensi, is that they don't want to give over control, or they feel like they still need that sense of control. And let it go. You'll be fine. They'll be fine. Just know, like, it's kind of like when kids leave the nest, I trust Morgan to, shepherd and steward her people. I don't need to watch over her. I feel the same way about Holly. And I mean, if I have a director that like doesn't respond to me, or a leader that I can't seem to get anything out of, I'm going to assume that if they're not responding to me, they are not taking care of their people. And at that point, you do have a duty to step in and do something about it. But in terms of leadership, let your leaders lead. Let them do it.
That's very important what you said, because I was thinking it is important to make sure that that those directors are doing their job, because some people will accidentally promote to director and then their team never hears from them. Their team never gets recognized. They never feel valued. They never feel like anybody cares. I've found some of my directors and star directors that way. I mean, I've had to dig down and be like, okay, these people are totally being left out in the dark. I need to take care of these people. So that is definitely something to be aware of. Do y'all have any more questions? Jill said I was a little Cincy baby when you were my SSD. I didn't even know what an SSD was back then.
I love it. I've missed everyone, but I'm so glad that we can keep up on Facebook, and it's wonderful. I mean, no questions, but I'm just loving reading the comments.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome.